My name is Song Oh, President of the Board. Before we convene, I'd like to remind everyone present that the Board is a consumer protection agency charged with administering and enforcing pharmacy law. Where protection of the public is inconsistent with other interests sought to be promoted, the protection of the public shall be paramount. This meeting is being conducted consistent with the provisions of Government Code Section 11133. Participants watching the webcast will only be able to observe the meeting. Anyone interested in participating in the meeting must join the WebEx meeting. Information and instructions are posted on our website. As I facilitate this meeting, I will announce when we are accepting public comment. I have advised the meeting moderator to allow 3 minutes to each individual providing comments. This approach is necessary to facilitate the meeting. Before we get started, I would like to staff moderating the meeting to provide general instructions. Moderator?
This is the moderator. The instructions will be placed on the screen each time public comment is requested. If you would like to participate in public comments, simply click on the question mark inside of a square, typically located bottom right corner of your WebEx screen. And in the text field that appears, type in comment or I would like to make a comment and make sure that goes to all panelists and click send. You can also raise your hand by hovering your mouse over your name and a hand outline will appear. Click on the hand outline to raise your hand. If you're calling in, you can raise your hand by pressing *3. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, moderator. Okay, now I'd like to take a roll call to establish a quorum. Members, as I call your name, please remember to open your line before speaking. Maria Serpa.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Maria. Jig Patel. Thank you, Jig. Renee Barker.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Renee. Indira. I don't know if Indira is joining, but Jesse Crawley.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Jesse. Jose de la Paz. Jose may be running a little late. Kula Koenig. Kula is not here yet. Ricardo Sanchez. Thank you, Ricardo. Nicole Thibault.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Nicole. Jason Wise.
Public member, and I am here.
Thank you, Jason, and I'm here. A quorum has been established, and thank you all the members for joining this meeting. I'll now ask the moderator to open the line for individuals to provide public comment. You're not required to identify yourself, but may do so. As we open the lines, I would like to remind everyone that the board cannot take action on these items, except to decide whether to place an item on a future agenda. Members, following review of the public comments for this agenda item, I will ask members to comment on what, if any, items should be placed on a future agenda. As a reminder, this agenda item is not intended to be a discussion, rather an opportunity for members of the board and members of the public to request consideration of an item for future placement on an agenda, at which time discussion may occur. Moderator, please open the line for public comment.
The Q&A is now open. Instructions are on the screen. If you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside of a square, type comment in the text field, and send it to all panelists. You can also raise your hand by hovering the cursor over the cursor over your name and clicking on the outline of a hand. You can press *3 if you're calling in. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Thank you, moderator. Okay, so hopefully this will be a quick meeting for all of you. I'm sorry that we have to gather all here, but just due to some unforeseen circumstances, we had to make this meeting today. So moving on to agenda item 3, discussion and consideration of waiver of pharmacy law provisions consistent with the authority in Business and Professions Code Section 4062 in response to state of emergency related to monkeypox, now known as Mpox, I believe. So first one is prescriber dispensing of TPOXX, oral antiviral medication to emergency room patients. As included in the meeting materials, Business and Professions Code Section 4062 provides authority for the board to issue a waiver of pharmacy law or its regulation adopted pursuant to it if the board's opinion the waiver will aid in the protection of the public health or the provisions of care. We have become far too familiar with this authority with the COVID public health emergency. However, I believe that it is in large part because of this unique authority the board has been positioned to respond quickly to COVID. Regrettably, we now find ourselves facing another public health emergency related to Mpox or MPX, as known as monkeypox. In response to Governor Newsom's state of emergency declaration to support the state's response to Mpox through authority delegated to the board president, I approved a waiver to allow for the dispensing of TPOXX on oral antiviral medication to an emergency room patient under specified conditions. Consistent with the delegated authority, the waiver will remain in place until September 1st, 2022, unless the board takes the action to extend it. Members, you will note that the TPOXX waiver includes the same approach as the board's similar waiver to allow the dispensing for COVID therapeutics. As I open the agenda item for member comment, I note that a possible motion is included with some flexibility. If any member would like to take a stab, please feel free. Any comments or concerns, please share. Also, we could just take the similar approach we are doing currently with COVID-19 waivers, which is to delegate the authority to the president. But we'll discuss that on the next agenda. So please, anyone have any thoughts, please feel free to speak or raise hands. Maria, go ahead.
Just a question for discussion. In all our discussions of the COVID waivers, we had always talked about having a roll down period, X number of days after the declared emergency because of the unique nature of the COVID issues. And I'm wondering if those issues would be the same for monkeypox, or would that be something that would not need a roll down period that would just end on the day that the emergency was declared no longer to be enforced? Just thinking out loud and wondering what the thoughts of the board was.
Anyone has any thoughts? I feel the roll down is always good to have, just in case. But go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah, I was just gonna to respond to Maria. Yes, I think there should be a roll down period. There's a long incubation period for the human monkeypox virus of about 3 weeks. So we would definitely want to account for such a long incubation period in our roll down, that there still may have been people, caught up in that period of time, would be my opinion. I also think this particular outbreak is impacting members of the LGBTQ community, particularly men who have sex with men, at an extraordinarily disproportionate rate. So, and the response to it has been a little bit, it's coming around now, but it was a little bit slow at first, not on behalf of the board, but on some other agencies. So I think it's really important that we take a strong stance to show that we want to support the community in any way we can. So I would suggest that we make this waiver until probably 90 days after the end of the declared emergency, if that is otherwise appropriate to the board.
Thank you. And I note that Jose has joined. Thank you, Jose, for joining.
No problem. I had a problem joining with the link, so I had to launch the WebEx and then join the long way, start copying things into it. So apologies.
Yeah, apology. Yeah. I think a lot of us had that issue too. So you're not alone.
Oh, great. I was a tech guy, so I was, yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Jose, for joining. Jesse, go ahead.
Hi, I would be comfortable with the 90-day roll down period, given its incubation period is so long. So I would be comfortable for that. Is that technically a motion? Did Nicole make a motion, or do we want more discussion first?
You can make a motion and see where it lands as well. Just want to make
I'd recommend a motion, yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yes. But I would ask Jesse or Nicole, if you're hoping to make a motion, I would make it a little bit more specific motion, just so that we have some choices. like a date and 90 days, also sooner/later. I personally think later would be more appropriate, just so we don't repeat the same thing we did for COVID-19, because we have to keep bringing it up for the board. I don't think there were much decisions that were changed because we brought it up for the board. So I think just we need to have a very fast and efficient way to respond to the needs of the community. So, but definitely.
President O, is there a limit on the time that we can put in terms of a date? Because it's not expected that this is going to resolve anytime soon.
So may I weigh in here?
Hi, Laura. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, by the way,
So,
Laura is our counsel for the day. Eileen unfortunately couldn't make it. So Laura is a counsel. She's been a counsel before Eileen's time, and she's just filling in just so that we know who everyone is.
right. So I'm also a DCA attorney and have, have been to the board's counsel in the past. So Business and Professions Code Section 4062, which is the source of the authority to waive it has to be pursuant to a declared emergency. So as long as the emergency is in place, then the board has the ability to waive. And then within subdivision D of that section, it only allows you to continue to waive up to 90 days. So that's your outside limit of how long you can waive, up to 90 days following the end of any declared emergency.
All right, so this is Nicole. I will make the motion. I would like to approve an extension of the waiver to allow for the dispensing of TPOXX oral antiviral medication to an emergency room patient under specified conditions until 90 days following the end of the declared emergency. Do we also have to include a date, or can we just say that?
You could
Sorry.
do it that way. That should work. I believe, Laura, go ahead.
Yes, I think that's okay. You don't have to have a date.
Motion then.
Ricardo.
Could I actually suggest an amendment to that?
Go ahead, Jesse.
To just add that last part of whichever is later.
I think we don't need that anymore because we're just having one sentence saying that 90 days after declared disaster. Okay. Correct, Laura? I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know.
Yeah, and so it looks like we're using until the end. We're removing the date.
We're
and
not
saying until the end, until 90 days following the end of the declared emergency.
So would that work?
Say that again.
Does that work?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So any other thoughts? Okay, well, oh, Jesse, your hand is up. Did you want to? Oh, okay, you're good. So we'll go for public comment.
As the moderator, I will
opening up for public comment. Can I just confirm it was Nicole Tebow as the first and Ricardo Sanchez as the second?
That's correct, Ann.
Okay. And do you want me to reread the motion, or do you have it, Ann?
I have the motion. I just missed the second. Thank you.
Okay.
This is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. Instructions are on the screen. If you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside of the square, type comment in the text field, and send it to all panelists. You can raise your hand by hovering your mouse over your name, clicking on the outline of a hand. If you called in, you can press *3 to raise your hand. I do have individual identified as Stuvenuk. I apologize if I mispronounced your name. I'm going to send a request to unmute your microphone.
Name is Stuvenuk. I was just looking at the original emergency request, And I noticed that in this motion, you've not included the generic name of the drug. Should that be included? Thank you.
No further requests. Would you like me to close Q&A?
Yes, please. Thank you, Moderator Laura. Could you just confirm that just for the purposes of our operation, is that required? The generic of the name medication be required? I don't believe so, but
So this is more of a, I'm gonna defer to the pharmacists. I think
Maria
that
has
would,
her hand raised, so I'm sure she'll give us an answer.
yeah,
Maria?
I think that might be a good idea if there is a generic.
I think that typically we always refer to the generic do not limit, because if this was going to be, completely black and white and there were choices, the waiver is just for one choice of amongst many. But it sounds like I think Nicole would know more about, are there many, or if there's only one choice in the TPOXX group?
Just one at this point.
I think we're ready to move on then. We'll go for the vote. Maria, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Jig. Thank you, Renee.
Yes.
Thank you, Renee. Indira is not here. Jesse? Thank you, Jose.
Yes.
Thank you, Kula. Kula is not here. Ricardo?
Yes.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Jason.
Yes.
Thank you. And I vote yes, the motion passes. Moving on to the next agenda item is policy granting president discretion to waive provisions of pharmacy law related to the state of emergency declared for Mpox. Also included on the agenda is an opportunity for us to discuss if the board would like to delegate additional authority to the president to waive provisions like the approach used to respond to COVID. You may recall that as part of the April 2022 meeting, the board voted to delegate to the president the authority to approve or extend waivers through December 31st, 2022, or until 90 days following the end of the declared disaster, whichever is later. In the meeting materials prepared by staff, there is again a possible motion that could be used to expand delegated authority to the president to issue or approve waivers in response to Mpox. I want to highlight that the possible motion does not include a closure clause at the end to link the delegation to the end of the declared disaster. I only highlight that point should a member wish to take a similar approach to the action taken by the board at the April 2022 meeting for COVID-19 waivers. Maria, your hand is up.
Actually, in questioning what you just had stated, and that this appears to be a long-term, unfortunately long-term issue, not something that is going to be short. And for consistency's sake, I think it would be prudent for us to have the same types of delegation to the president for both, so that we don't get ourselves confused and have different directions.
Sounds good. Maria, would you want to make a motion?
I would, but I don't remember what you said, what it was.
Oh, I think it'll just be the delegate authorities to the president to approve waivers for 90 days following the declared disaster. You can do that way, or you can put a date same as COVID, December 31st, 2022, or until 90 days following the end of the declared disaster, whichever is later. Either option I think would work. So we just did a waiver that would mirror the first, and then mirroring the COVID, it would be a little bit of a different approach. So, but basically same outcome.
Yeah, I think that the words may be different, but the intent would be the same, and that would be to 90 days beyond the extension, beyond the ending of the declared emergency.
Sounds good. Okay, so anyone want to second Maria's motion?
This is Jig. I'll second.
Thank you, Jig. All right, any other member comments?
Before you do that, to approve waivers for up to blank days and to extend existing waivers. This is the first waiver with respect to respect to MPOX, correct?
This is, what do you mean, Laura? First waiver? Okay.
Because the language says to extend existing waivers.
Yes, yes.
And this authorizes the president to approve a new waiver. Is that the language that we're approving? That the board is considering?
That's my understanding, yes.
Up to 90 days and to extend it existing waivers. So the only existing waiver that will be able to be extended would be the one that you just approved. The prior
Right,
motion.
but they both have the same timeline. So it essentially, anyway, go ahead, Anne.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so at the time that we were drafting the meeting materials, right, we don't know where the board's going to go with the prior agenda items. So trying to provide flexibility within the motion. I don't know that we need to include, extending waivers because there's currently just one waiver and you all have just voted to extend it until 90 days post. Maria, should it be helpful? I did pull up the motion from the April board meeting. And I think a motion that could be used, if I'm understanding what your intent is to approve delegated authority to the president to approve waivers for up to 90 days following the end of the declared disaster, something along those lines.
Thank you. That would be my motion.
I second that.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Jig. Any other member comments? Okay, we'll go.
Jesse, sorry, I just had a point of clarification. Is the intention of this specifically for MPOX, or is the intention of this to expand it to, I mean, hopefully we don't have any more endemics or pandemics, but is the intention to give you just more authority for any emergency situation?
No, it will only be a possibility is only for MPOX because that's the only declared disaster. So we can only do this due to a declared disaster, which is only for MPOX/monkeypox.
Okay. Thank
you. I think that question raises something that I would recommend the board actually, unfortunately, modify the motion to include that specificity, that the authority being delegated to the president is with respect to MPOX.
Okay, Maria.
Yeah,
okay?
and thank you for bringing that up because the title of the agenda item disappears once the motion is approved. So that is a very good point. So it would be approve waivers for monkeypox.
Right.
Or related to monkeypox, whatever is.
Or MPOX nowadays. So, Jig, is that okay with you? All right, thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you, Jesse, for bringing that up. Okay, so we'll go for public comment.
This is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. Instructions are on the screen. Click on the question mark inside of a square, type comment, send it to all panelists, or you can raise your hand, hovering your cursor over your name, clicking on the outline of the hand, or pressing *3 if you're calling in. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Yes, please. Thank you, moderator. Okay, with motion and second and public comment, we will go for the vote. Maria, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Maria. Jig?
Yes.
Thank you, Jig. Renee? Thank you, Renee. Jesse?
Yes.
Thank you, Jesse. Jose? Thank you, Jose. Ricardo?
Yes.
Thank you, Ricardo. Nicole? Thank you, Nicole. Jason?
Yes.
Thank you, Jason. And I vote yes, the motion passes. Thank you, members. Really appreciate for gathering us for this. And I'm sorry for having to have you all join And also, I just got an update. We will not be having a closed session anymore. So the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate all your time. We'll see you next time.
Good to see familiar faces.
Good to see you, Laura. Bye.